of passionate individuals committed to the advancement of independent publishing in South Africa. Are we all, am I audible?
Yes.
Okay. I just thought I heard someone speaking there. Okay. As we reflect on our journey, our achievements, and our challenges, let us celebrate the resilience and creativity that define our industry. This AGM serves as a platform for collaboration, innovation, and a renewed commitment to our shared mission of promoting diverse voices, preserving indigenous languages, and empowering communities. Your presence here signifies your unwavering dedication to the future of independent publishing, and for that, we are truly grateful. Let us engage in a meaningful dialogue, share insights, and strategize for a stronger, uniting publishing community. Welcome and thank you for being part of this important occasion. With those few words, I welcome all of you to this meeting. We're going to go straight to our keynote address that is going to be done by Michael Power. Let me just give you a short background of Michael Power. Michael is an attorney of the High Court of South Africa, a director of Power Associates, holds a distinguished legal qualification. He holds distinguished legal qualifications and is pursuing an executive MBA at UCT. He specialized in litigation, legal advisory, policy development, and law reform, with expertise in constitutional, media and environmental, and international law. Passionate about human rights, he focuses on strategic litigation and rights-based strategies to derive public interest outcomes. With those words, Michael, I want to welcome you.
Thank you so much for the introduction, Aneta, to members of the AIP board, and I think most importantly to all of the independent publishers on the call. It really is a privilege to be with you today, and I look forward to the engagements. As I understand it, I've been asked to speak to wonderful recent news following the public announcement of the Digital News Transformation Fund, which AIP launched alongside Google last week, Monday. And I've been briefed really to do two things. One is to give an overview of that fund. And secondly, we'll be available alongside a colleague of ours from Chikalulu Social Investments. We'll be available to answer any questions or to clarify anything in relation to the fund that colleagues may want clarity on. So I think as a point of departure, I'm hoping to speak today about both substance and systems. The latter really enjoins our conversation around the fund. But to give context to the fund, I just want to remind colleagues, and for any publishers on this call who have been subject to slap suits or to litigation, you will be well aware of this jurisprudence. But I just want to localize the press and, more importantly, community media in the broader constitutional project. So, as colleagues will note, Section 16 of the Constitution protects freedom of expression. And it reads, for present purposes, everyone has the right to freedom of expression, which includes, 1, freedom of the press and other media, and in my view, more importantly, it includes the freedom to receive or impart information and ideas. Now, that provision has been interpreted by multiple South African courts, and I just want to read two paragraphs from two separate judgments. The first is a judgment by Joffe J. in Government versus Sunday Times. It's a 1995 decision. And Judge Joffe states that the role of the press in a democratic society cannot be understated. The press is in the front line of the battle to maintain democracy. It is the function of the press to ferret out corruption, dishonesty, and graft wherever it may occur and to expose the perpetrators. Almost 13 years after that decision, the Supreme Court of Appeal, in one of the seminal press freedom cases called MIDI Television, held that it is important to bear in mind that the constitutional promise of a free press is not one that is made for the protection of the special interests of the press alone. The constitutional promise is made rather to secure the interest that all citizens have in the free flow of information, which is possible only if there is a free press. To abridge the freedom of press is to abridge the rights of all citizens and not merely the rights of the press itself. So it's really within that context, as colleagues are well aware, that the press operates. And if, like ourselves, colleagues are enjoined to protecting and promoting our constitutional project, I would take that jurisprudence one step further and suggest that the press is also an educator. If you take the duty of the press to impart information and ideas, in strengthening our democratic project, we need that flow of information to educate the public, not only about corruption and dishonesty, but also about the effective constitutional governance of a state and to impart information that is necessary for citizens to be able to exercise their rights and, importantly, their right to vote and in make informed decisions. So it's really within that context, that importance of a free press, that the Digital News Transformation Fund was negotiated. Now, more importantly, and I think for opposite purposes, we need to recognize that community media plays as central a role as mainstream media to vindicating the constitutional rights to a free press. As we all know, community media ensures plurality and diversity in views, and it distributes information and ideas to community members who may not have access to mainstream media sources. So, in vindicating our constitutional project, the protection of community media is as central to a free press as enabling the rights of mainstream media actors. So, within that context, 14 months ago, AIP was approached by Google to start a conversation around a community media fund and more directly, a digital news transformation fund. 13 months ago, I was approached by AIP to support AIP in its negotiations with Google. And 13 months later, we now have a publicly announced fund to the tune of 114 million rand to be distributed over a three-year period to community media organizations. So I think it's important, firstly, to recognize the role of Aneta, Mbali, Kate, Duni, and others who have played a significant role in being party to this negotiation. And I think it's also important to note that this is the biggest single tranche donor commitment to community media in South African history. So we've grappled with the substance of what the press do. We're really now looking towards the systems. And I represent a lot of different community media organizations. I've represented a lot of journalists. And I think it's appropriate to recognize that journalists are so busy working on the substance, meeting deadline, getting stories out, speaking to sources, that often the system of running a newsroom or a small community media organization doesn't get the attention it may need. And that's for very credible reasons, because we're too busy working on the substance of journalism as opposed to focusing on the system which enables the substantive work that we do. So, with that in mind, cognizant of the sustainability crisis in journalism, which we're seeing around the world, but acutely in South Africa, because of a diminishing reader base, challenges with state-sanctioned organizations like the MDDA, the DNT Fund was a negotiation that AIP entered into to try and ensure that there was a cash injection into community media, but equally that over the longer term, community media may find sustainability mechanisms to not only survive, but potentially over time to work towards thriving. So the fund is now established. The intent is to start receiving requests for proposals for funding in March next year. And I just want to use the opportunity here to brief colleagues on the call really around the objectives of the fund, the eligibility criteria, and then the structure. What type of quantums will be available to community media organizations? Now, with that said, I think it's important to recognize two things. The only way that this fund was going to be established was in partnership with Google. Google committed extensive quantums of income, but in return, their negotiation strategy was not to simply just provide what we could call donor funding or, core grant funding to community media organizations. They had a particular digital transformation agenda which links to potential sustainability strategies in the future. So this is not simply a core grant fund where community media organizations can be funded simply to cover their expenses. It's a fund that looks to digital transformation initiatives with the hope to help with certain sustainability strategies for community media. I think that's the first thing to bear in mind. The second thing to bear in mind is it's only a 3-year commitment. So while it's a fantastic tranche of income, and AIP's board and others should be applauded for securing this deal, I think we need to recognize that it only exists at this stage for 3 years, and it's uncertain as to whether or not that will be extended. The best comparative example we have of these types of funds is a fund that Google established in Taiwan, which was with the Taiwanese government, and it was worth $10 million over 3 years. That fund is now drawing to an end, and it's unclear at this stage as to whether or not it is going to be extended by Google. So I think, with those two caveats, one, that this fund pertains to digital transformation, and two, that it's a 3-year grant cycle, which means that we want to get it up and running as quickly as possible to start working towards sustainability. Let me take you through the primary objectives of the D&T fund. And Kate, Aneta, Duni, others, if we haven't circulated the fund agreement or the framework agreement, you would be very welcome to do so to give colleagues clarity. Alternatively, for those on the call, if you go to the AIP website and you look at the first banner on the home page, you will see a link to the D&T fund page, which will give you some of the particulars that I'm going to talk through now. But importantly, in terms of objectives, there are 5 objectives of this fund. The first is to support local and independent news publishers. Importantly, with a digital news product or those who intend to develop a digital news product to produce original public interest journalism and increase their audience and reach. So if we look at that first objective, it applies really to any community media organization, either one who has a functional Facebook page, website, community WhatsApp group, for example, that would constitute a digital news product, or a publisher who intends to develop it. So it really applies to those who are primarily offline at the moment, as well as those who are both on and offline. And, we're appreciative of the different models and strategies that various publications employ. And the reason for that primary objective was to give everyone space to have access to this particular fund. The second objective is to support local and independent news publishers to achieve tangible technological and commercial goals. So the point of the fund is to help increase effectively the bottom line of each publisher, to help the balance sheet and increase income to much needed income into the community media sector. The third, and this goes to the link that I drew between community media and our constitutional project, but that's to promote transformation, equity, diversity, and inclusion in local and independent news publishers in South Africa. The fourth is to encourage strategies aimed at the sustainability of journalism, including the use of technology and the adoption of generative AI and other artificial intelligence in support of editorial processes and the development of sustainable business models and practices. So, while on the one hand, this fund is there to support commercial incentives for publishers. It's also an innovation fund which seeks to support publishers in finding new and innovative ways to distribute their content, to reach newer audiences, and importantly, to set up the systems internally that can sustain their organizations. And then lastly, the fifth objective is to support local and independent news publishers to access or build fact-checking initiatives to combat mis and disinformation. So those are really the five objectives. And you can see it casts a relatively wide net. For those of you who may be on the call and, in some of the research we've done with AIP who have said, we've tried to go online, it didn't work. The numbers aren't there for us. Print is our business. I'm going to address that question a bit later when it comes to funding criteria. So let's park it for now, but I will address, that question, which some of you on the call may have. If we then turn to eligibility criteria, and I think this is quite important for colleagues to be cognizant of, there are a series of eligibility criteria. There's 6 of them. And let me start with the first. The first is that in your application, the project that you're applying for funding for, it must be by a local independent news publisher, either an individual beneficiary, and that beneficiary does not need to be a member of AIP. It can be any small or local independent news publisher. So to be eligible, you must either be a local publisher or you can bid as a collective of publishers. And I think that becomes quite important when we look at quantums later. On the upper band, you're looking at around 2 million Rand grants a year. And to achieve some of those grant bands, it may be that colleagues want to partner and form collectives to source or share digital tools and strategies to ensure that they're eligible for higher quantums. But we'll get back to that under the funding guideline. So you're either independent or you're a collective. And you need to prove that you either want to develop a pre-existing digital project or intend to develop a new digital product. And that links back to the objectives. It applies to both those who are offline and those who are both on and offline. Secondly, if you're an individual beneficiary, and this applies to bigger publishers, and this is where the fund quite clearly is applicable to smaller local publishers as to bigger mainstream applicants, individual beneficiaries with a digital product must have less than 1 million unique monthly visitors to their websites. And publishers who qualify for or are already benefiting from a Google News Showcase deal are excluded. So what that carve out is for is to ensure that the fund is in place for small local and community media organizations, such as those aligned to AIP, and it prevents one of the bigger publishers from coming in and seeking to apply for the lion's share of the funding. I think importantly, and for colleagues who are not yet aligned, beneficiaries must be members of the Press Council of South Africa, in good standing, ensure a commitment to journalistic ethics, oversight, and transformation. And then most importantly, beneficiaries must display a genuine commitment to digital transformation, including tangible, technological, or commercial goals. And then notably as an exclusion, because this is a public interest fund, it's a digital news transformation fund which seeks to promote journalism as a public good. Beneficiaries may not be news aggregators, general interest magazines without a clear commitment to public interest journalism or broadcasting services. So that really gives you some understanding of who is eligible to apply for funding and the objectives of what this fund wants to achieve. This is cognizant of the fact that, over 38 million Rand a year is available to fund projects, which is a substantial potential injection to a variety of different either individual or collective beneficiaries under this fund. Now, this is where I think there's some nuance and it becomes quite important. There are three funding bands, and they are called Build, Grow, or Engage. The Build band is the initial funding band, which is restricted to 350,000 Rand per project per year. Projects can run over the course of more than a year, but for each calendar year under the Build band, beneficiaries will receive 350,000 Rand. Then we have the second band, which is the Grow band, and that is to an annual cap of 900,000 Rand. And then we have the final Engage band, which is the largest band, and that's at a cap of 1.9 million Rand a year. Now, for those who may be asking, why are these limitations? These limitations link back to the limitations on Google Showcase deals, and it's to ensure that as many beneficiaries as possible can be supported by this fund. It also diminishes the ability of one applicant to come in and take the lion's share of funding because of those upper limit funding caps. So just for the sake of memory, Build is a 350,000 Rand grant, Grow is a 900,000 Rand grant, and Engage is a 1.9 million Rand annual grant. And again, each of these grants can run for 1 year or over a series of years. Now, recognizing that a lot of publishers haven't yet had the ability to effectively go online or even consider developing a digital news product, the way we've crafted the Build grant is quite important. This is the 350,000 Rand grant. And here the requirement is that individual and collective beneficiaries with little or no online presence and with the goal to establish a digital foundation are entitled to 350 up to 350,000 Rand a year. Examples of how this money can be spent include contributions to tech infrastructure, including purchasing hardware and related connected devices, so anything from cell phones to laptops, which can strengthen a newsroom, ensuring adequate connectivity such as Wi-Fi and data bundles to ensure that people can get online. And we know that this is one of those expense points which can be a challenge for a lot of publishers. Development of websites, domain name registrations, content management systems, such as setting up a WordPress or other related backend to a website, and then the adoption of sort of generative AI as that emerges more and more in the newsroom. However, importantly for this grant, and this is what I was linking to earlier under objectives, this grant also recognized that for organizations facing acute sustainability challenges, the funding may support organizational stability, sustainability, development initiatives, and may include strategic initiatives such as developing digital transformation policies. So what the Build Band does is it recognizes that for very small publishers who haven't yet been able to move online or to develop digital projects, the grant does two things. One, and it can support where there's an acute challenge with baseline sustainability expenses, provided those sustainability expenses are then used in lieu of developing digital tools in future. And what the hope is that through a 3 year life cycle, a small publisher may go from the Build grant to get established, then move into the Grow grant, and then move into the Engage grant as it enhances its internal systems and strategies and builds out its digital newsroom. The second Grow grant, this is the 900,000 grant, is for organizations that want to optimize or expand existing websites or content management systems, or they want to create programs and tools to boost their content and visibility online. This includes everything from newsletters to search engine optimization to video production. It really allows those who have already started grappling with a digital base with the tools that they would need to expand that base. And then the highest of the bands, the Engage band, the 1.9 band, is for beneficiaries who are digitally mature and who want to invest in new technologies with the goal of improving their online reach and developing their business models. So, as you'll see, with the intention behind the fund, it's really to help community media actors from inception all the way through to digital maturity on the one hand, but where there are pre-existing actors, it's to support them, which really within whichever band they may be, and to help them potentially graduate from band to band over a 3-year process. Importantly, as I've noted, there's also the collective beneficiary allowance, where partnerships may be entered into, for example, to share a content management system, to share a Microsoft 365 Office suite to enable publication. There's a range of different strategies and innovations that publishers can take to make themselves eligible for this fund and ultimately receive funding to sustain their operations. In terms of next steps, then, where we are is this broad framework agreement was negotiated with Google. As we've noted, it's been sort of a 14-month process. There have been ups and downs, but thankfully we have found an agreement with Google that the AIP board took the view was suitable to the AIP membership, and Google ultimately was agreeable to funding. AIP significantly influenced what was initially a far more nuanced fund and has opened it up in many ways, cognizant of the various challenges and constraints of its membership, has really opened up this funding to make it as accessible to a vast majority of community media actors. From here, we are in the process of finalizing our engagements with Chikalulu Social Investments. Chamu is on the call, who represents TSI, and TSI is the fund administrator. They will be receiving applications from beneficiaries and they will be distributing income in accordance with those bands. AIP elected to go with the fund administrator because we're dealing with substantial quantities of income. And equally, AIP itself doesn't have the internal capacity to, one, receive applications, to support applicants with making application to the fund and meeting the fund criteria, conducting due diligence and other necessary matters. And the reason, therefore, is that TSI comes in to support with that process for two reasons. The AIP board will exercise oversight over TSI to make sure that the money is correctly spent, but AIP itself is then arm's length from the income so that there's proper regulatory control of the income and we can ensure that it goes to beneficiaries and no one else. Then where we are now is following the sort of broad strokes framework agreement that's been negotiated with Google. The next step now is to develop what's called the funding policy. And the funding policy will be quite nuanced and really flesh out a lot of what is contained in both the objectives, but in each one of the funding bands as well. The intent is to have that policy ready by early 2025, and then to take that policy both to this collective and to others to ensure that it is subject to a thorough and robust public participation and consultation policy, so that all views and perspectives from a variety of different actors are considered and inform exactly how money will be distributed during the course of this 3-year cycle. In terms of oversight, as I've indicated, Chikalulu will hold the income on behalf of AIP, and there will be effectively two structures. There is the day-to-day operations, which we manage by Chamu and his team. Chamu will be responsible for receiving applications, doing the operational management of the fund. There will be an independent adjudication committee of 5 people, which will be 5 independent experts who are responsible for making decisions in terms of applications received for funding. And then there will be what's called the Oversight and Advisory Committee, which will be chaired by AIP or a suitable chair that AIP elects, a member of the Press Council, a member of the South African government, and then a member of a mainstream media organization and 3 independent members. The benefit of how we've negotiated this fund is that AIP is responsible for appointing the Oversight Committee, and the Oversight Committee will then appoint the Adjudication Board. So at all steps in this process, we've tried to comply with best practice, which ensures suitable and appropriate governance structures and effective and enhanced transparency of who is receiving funding, when, and to what quantums. When funding decisions are made and beneficiaries are successful, all successful beneficiaries and the quantum that they've been received is intended to be made publicly accessible so the community can effectively vet and ensure that the funding is being appropriately spent. And equally, the views of the adjudication committee will be overseen by the oversight board, and in turn, AIP, as I understand it, will report to its members from time to time on developments in relation to this fund. So, colleagues, I can see we're at half the hour. I hope that gives a useful overview of the fund. Again, I want to congratulate the AIP board, led by Aneta and others, for the substantial work that they've done behind the scenes to get this fund up and running. And then to all of you, I hope that each member on this call has the ability to apply and is hopefully successful in its funding applications to the fund so that in the end there can be enhanced attempts at sustainability in community media, and community media can continue to play its role as a public sentinel and a custodian of our constitution. So with that, Aneta, I want to thank you and everyone for the time, and if I can hand back to you.
Thank you very much, Michael, for that comprehensive summary of the D&T Fund. We greatly appreciate it. Colleagues, members of AIP, there will be an opportunity for you to ask questions later. Now, what I want to do is to introduce to you Tamu Mkombe from Tukululu Social Investments, who was going to explain they're going to be our fund manager and just give us a brief overview of what exactly they do as fund managers. Let me first introduce him by giving a short bio. Chamo is the Chief Operations Officer of Tukululu Social Investments. Tukululu was founded more than 26 years ago and is South Africa's most experienced social investment fund manager and advisor. Tukululu provide end-to-end strategic social investment solutions to design, govern, invest, measure, and manage for impact. Its combination of hands-on experience and designing and implementing social investment strategies truly sets Tukululu apart. I actually Googled the word Tukululu. It means leader, protector or caretaker. So our funds are in good hands. Tamu he's played a role in Tukululu since July 2023 after he left Accenture South Africa, where he was a managing director. He is a seasoned leader with decades of experience in general management, business development, consulting services, operations, and sales. He spent much of his career addressing client challenges, solving business problems, and building winning teams. Before joining Tukululu Social Investments, he undertook various leadership roles in South Africa and abroad, both international and local companies, including Accenture, Dell Technologies, Microsoft, McKinsey and Company, IBM, ICT Work, and Impala Platinum. With those words, I welcome you, Tamu. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Chair, and good morning, everybody. It's a great privilege for me to be here to share with you what we're doing working together with AIP. I must say, it is a real privilege for us as Tukululu to be working alongside AIP in this really important piece of work with the establishment of the D&T Fund, and of course, making sure that funds are channeled in the right way and the beneficiaries actually get objectives met and sustainability is achieved. I'm going to try and share my screen. So please do let me know when you can see it. Oh, so I see that it says host has disabled participant
Sure.
screen sharing.
Chamal, give it another try. Apologies.
Okay, I'll try it again. There we go.
Thank you.
Please tell me if you can see my screen.
Yep. Yes, we
Okay,
can
there
see.
we
Thank
go.
you. Yes, we can.
Fantastic. So I'm just going to share with you a little bit about what we will do as Chikululu in driving this fund forward and what can be the expectations of the partnership with Chikululu. So I guess we all know this, that the Digital News Transformation Fund has been established, and we all know why it has been established and what is the need for this fund. We understand, and I'm probably giving you background that many of us on the call are actually aware of, but just for completeness, with the declining advertising revenue, the challenges with costs, job losses, and all of those things that we many probably on the call are experiencing, there have been a lot of challenges and financial strain within the media space. And so this fund was actually put in place to address many of those issues and many of those challenges. And we, of course, as Chikululu, our part of what we are doing is to make sure that as we do this work, we provide the right support, and we are literally we are the conduit, right, that enables this money to reach the relevant beneficiaries, but also we are providing accountability, of course, to AIP and its members, to the general public, and to Google, and of course to the beneficiaries themselves. And the issue here is that we will be able to provide the relevant monitoring and evaluation and the reporting. And Michael mentioned something very important about sustainability. And it is important that we're able to demonstrate that sustainability is being achieved, or we are on the right path for our beneficiaries to achieve that sustainability, which is actually what's needed in the long run. So some of the things around the fund overview, and I won't dwell too much on this, but just to highlight a couple of things. So of course there's the support, where we will support small to medium scale businesses in the news media sector. And we want to be able to help those that are experiencing challenges in moving to digital, to make sure that they are helped along the way and that they are provided with the right support and the skills that they need. And again, that will come through the way that the money is the RFP process, where we actually go and we select the beneficiaries to address certain challenges that have been identified. And of course, the key goals around aligning with their key strategic objectives and making sure that the impact is measurable and that we are, again, I will repeat, fostering that long-term sustainability that is important for this work. We don't want after the 3 years to come back and say, well, actually money was spent, but are those beneficiaries better off in the long run? Or do we have to continue finding ways in which to fund them so that they can achieve their objectives year after year? I think we want to be able to, at the end of that 3 years, say, everybody that has received this money is much better off compared to where they would have been had they not received it. But also it is something that will help them as they move forward in the future. So what is the role of the Chikululu Trust? For those that don't know, Chikululu Trust, or Chikululu, is actually made up of 3 entities, and I'll just very briefly explain that. We've got the trust, Chikululu Trust, then we've got the NPC, and then we've got the Chikululu Management Services Pty Limited. In this particular instance, the funds are flowing into the Chikululu Trust. And there's what we call a grant agreement that has happened there, where Chikululu Trust will receive that money on behalf of AIP, and Chikululu Investments NPC has got an SLA with the trust, where the NPC then executes on behalf of the trust, and the trust has received a mandate from AIP, right? And that mandate is what will be executed against. And so if we look on the right-hand side there, I think it just explains that in a bit more detail, where we're saying that the trust and the Chikululu NPC have got an existing SLA where the NPC actually executes on behalf of the trust. And of course, the trust will be used to disburse those funds to those beneficiaries and the implementation partners. And of course, if you look at the lower bottom there, the key things that we will be looking at is administration of the actual fund itself. Of course, alongside that is the finances, the disbursement thereof. There's quite a bit of stakeholder engagement that we will do with the different stakeholders, be they the beneficiaries, the committees that Michael has talked about, the adjudication committee, and then the advisory committee. And of course, with AIP themselves, with Google, and I guess the broader public that is quite keen to see how this fund will be administered and the success of this fund. And there's an legal element that we will be involved in as well with regards to the contracting of those third parties that we are working with, making sure that everything is above board and meets the legal criteria and the legislation requirements. Very quickly then, our trust, the Chikululu Trust, I want to just share with you the trustees that make up that trust, or that are the trustees that have got the fiduciary responsibilities of the trust. Here they are. Some of you may be aware of them, but you can look at the details on our website. But these are the reason I'm putting them up here is I want to just share the fact that these are seasoned business leaders. They've been leading various businesses for many, many years. Some of them as CEOs of organizations, chairman and chairman, I guess, chair manager of large organizations. Some of those are international, some of those are South African based. So basically what I'm trying to say is you are in good hands. You've got people that have been in this business for a long time. And ultimately, they hold the fiduciary responsibilities of what happens with the Chikululu Trust. And they will do all that it takes to ensure that the proper governance is put in place, that the monies are disbursed in the right way, that due diligence is applied, and at the end of the day, do all that they can to make sure that this fund is successful. The way that the governance and the administration will work is we try to depict it here, where we've got the Chikululu trustees, the trustees that I've just indicated to you. Then, of course, we've got the oversight and advisory board that will provide guidance around of course, we're talking about the funding policy, for example, that will need to be put in place. But they will ultimately provide the guidance around what are the things that will be funded, what type of initiatives and activities that will be funded, and they will provide oversight on the adjudication committee. And the constitution of that oversight and advisory board, Michael has already talked to it, 7 members, including representatives from AIP, the Publisher Support Services, the Press Council, South African government, and 3 independent members. Then we've got the Chikululu NPC that will be executing on behalf of the Chikululu Trust. Then we've got the adjudication committee. When the proposals go out for us to be able to then find the right beneficiaries so that the money can go and do what it's supposed to do, that adjudication committee will actually vet all the proposals that will be submitted, and every single one of them that is submitted will be looked at, right? And we're looking at probably about 200 at a time. They will be looked at and adjudicated accordingly. And those that don't make it will be notified as to why they don't make it in terms of the success criteria. And then those that do make it will be submitted to the Oversight and Advisory Board for them to vet and finally make the relevant approvals. Or it may well be that at that point something comes up and they say, listen, these particular ones, maybe for these reasons, we will not approve right now, but we will maybe look at the next tranche, or whatever the case may be, after those recipients, those beneficiaries, and maybe have addressed certain things that have been identified. So that is kind of the process that we will follow in that running of the RIFP process to select the projects to be funded. Very quickly, I'll take you through what it is that we will do from strategically. How are we going to address this, and how are we going to be operationalizing the actual management of this fund? Initially, we will do what we call a strategic. We'll spend a bit of time looking at strategically developing where we want to fund as the DNT fund, right? We kind of know where it is, but we will spend some time just solidifying the thinking together with the advisory board, as well as, of course, the relevant members of AIP and the relevant members from the adjudication committee. And once that is set, we now know exactly kind of the roadmap that we're going to be, that we will guide us as we go on this journey. Then we start with that RFP process and we identify the beneficiaries. And there's a whole process that is followed as we do that. Then we select the beneficiaries. They are recommended to the advisory committee. And upon their approval, of course, that approval should be in line with the public benefit activities, which are already set. We then start with the actual disbursement of the funds and making sure that those beneficiaries are assisted in carrying out their particular projects, right? But then there's an element around monitoring and reporting, monitoring and evaluation and reporting that we will be undertaking as Chikululu, where we will be checking to make sure that the money truly is being used for what it was intended for, and that those beneficiaries are receiving the help that they need. If we need to go and bring on board third parties, as per the requirements, we will do that to support those beneficiaries, to make sure that their projects are well supported and that they will get the technical assistance or the know-how that they require. Right? And of course, we do the fund disbursements in that process, and there's ongoing day-to-day operations that we will do as Chikululu. We will actually, as part of this whole process, we will bring on board an experienced digital media specialist that will actually work within the Chikululu system, within our trust. And that particular individual will kind of be the project manager end to end that will drive this work, engaging with the different stakeholders, making sure that the best practice is applied, making sure that we are adhering to what is required from a digital media requirements perspective, right? And that we're providing the beneficiaries. We're helping them keep in line with the trends, so that at the end of the day, what they achieve and what they do in a few years' time is not something that suddenly is no longer applicable, or it's what they were doing was actually going in a direction that is again not future looking. So this particular individual will help us as we make those kind of decisions and as we assist the beneficiaries in that way. Just to give you a bit of insight and comfort again around what it is that Chikululu does and why we believe that we are best suited to assist in this way. Chikululu as we've said, or as was indicated at the beginning, we've got 26 years of experience working with multiple entities, and we've been working with trusts of different types. And by trust, I'm actually referring to funds, right, that are similar to this DNT fund. And in some cases, they actually have much bigger amounts to spend in any one given year than what we will be helping the fund to spend in per year, right? The money that Michael has talked about, the 38 million rand per year. What I wanted to show you on this page is just some of the trusts that we've been working with. We've been working with community trusts, and some of the names are indicated there, Enel, Tungela, the Nkulo Trust. You may know that the Nkulo Trust, it is public knowledge, have got more than 2 billion rand in their endowment, and they use a portion of that each year for the benefit of their communities in the way they operate, right? And a number of those other trusts that we have, that we manage, have similar magnitude of money that is endowed that they then use for these purposes. Broad-based BEE trusts, I won't read them. You can see them there yourself. Socio-economic development trusts, various charitable trusts, and here I'm talking about your philanthropic organizations that maybe certain families have put together that then invest money, their own money, within various communities or for various social investment purposes. And those are the ones that you see there. Okay, moving right ahead. The next steps that we are seeing as we move along, of course, we want to finalize this strategic design with AIP, and this is kind of the first step that we'll look at, including the impact framework and its objectives. But also, as in parallel to that, start working with AIP around some of those policies that Michael has talked about. And also, we will very soon be starting to look for that digital media specialist that we are bringing on board specifically for this work, right? And we are hoping that beyond this money that Google has committed, there will be other funders that see the value and actually then are able to contribute money that can be used for this investment, social investment. And that just brings about, again, sustainability beyond the 3 years that we're talking about. So, and then the next thing that we're looking at is working with AIP to establish this oversight board and adjudication committee. Then probably around about towards the end of Q1 next year, we start looking at that first RFP process to identify the right programs, the right projects, and of course the beneficiaries that will be running these, and also identifying where appropriate the third parties that will be required to assist and make sure that those programs run very well. Then soon thereafter, of course, is the monitoring and evaluation framework that will now need to be executed against to track the progress and make sure that we are reporting on performance, because there are certain KPIs that are expected to be reported on. Google is expecting that, AIP is expecting that, and I guess the broader community is expecting that. So we will be working in making sure that those reports are provided as per the schedules that we will set. Then, of course, establish our regular reporting timelines to update stakeholders on the fund activities. So with that, let me stop there. I'm sure there are probably quite a number of questions that people have, and I will take questions that pertain to the work that Chipululu will be doing to support the fund moving forward.
Thank you so much, Chamu. Thank you for that explanation of how you will work together with AIP on the fund. Colleagues, we are now going to open up for questions. You may raise your hand when you ask your question. We will take a few questions and then we will allow Chamu, Sis Kate, and the others to respond to your questions. Thank you very much.
Sure. Aneta, we have a question from Mahmoud.
Hi,
Go ahead, Mahmoud.
thank you, Anita and Ben, Chamu, and Michael, who presented earlier. Well, firstly, an acknowledgement to the people who played a key role, including some of my colleagues on the AIP board. I think this is a remarkable accomplishment after many years. I remember the years when we used to rely on European funding to sustain AIP well over 10, 12 years ago. This is a new milestone, so I'd like to congratulate those who are involved. I do have some questions. I've actually placed them on the chat, so I'm not going to repeat them verbally. Perhaps can I just ask, are these questions visible to everybody on the chat?
Yes, Mahmoud, there are.
Okay, fair enough. Then I think I'd like to ask whoever feels best placed to answer these questions, perhaps to address them directly. And, then there's no need for me to repeat them.
Ben and Aneta, I just wanted to say that Michael Power needs to leave, and therefore it will be myself and Chamu, obviously Aneta, and our whole board that will be able to answer the questions. But what Michael has said to all of us, and a big thank you to Michael, is that he is also very happy to answer written questions as well. So thank you, colleagues. Thanks, Aneta.
Okay, V, are you able to see Mahmoud's questions? Because I can't see it from my end, so that we can get the best person to answer.
Well, maybe I can read them, if that will help.
I think it's easier if Mahmoud repeats them.
All right. Thanks, Ben. So the first question is, are the costs of service providers like Power and Associates and Shikululu Social Investments covered as part of the 114 million rand? If not, how are these costs provided for? Perhaps, that can be addressed to us, and then I'll go on to the second question.
Yeah,
Sis Kate, do you want to
Kate,
go
are you
ahead
okay
and
for me
answer
to take
that one?
that?
Yes, Chamu, please go ahead, and I'll add,
Okay.
but Chamu, please go.
Okay.
Sure, thank you. Yes, so Mahmoud, absolutely. The 114 million rand actually comes with a certain portion that goes towards the administration of the fund and also third parties. So, for example, the fund is being set up. The fund will have, let's call it, members of that of the different committees, those two committees. When they do their work, they will expect some kind of compensation, right? We can call it whatever we want, but there's some kind of monetary compensation that they will get, and that is taken care of in that 114 million. The work that Chikululu is doing is also taken care of as an administrator of the fund. And the way that we've worked with Google and, of course, AIP is that the amounts for all of those things that I've mentioned around the management and the admin and the third party, the fund will probably also have like a website that will be developed for it. There's a bit of PR that we'll need to do to push it into the market. Chikululu is managing all of that. We've worked out that it will not exceed, it will be up to about 20% for everything, right? That Chikululu is responsible for. And of course, we had to put together a proposal to AIP and to Google regarding what was required to be done. And part of that whole discussion that has led up to this was making sure that all of those elements were taken care of. So a short answer to your question is yes, it is included in that amount.
Okay.
I just want to add to what Chamu said. So absolutely, all those issues around the fact that the fund Shikalulu's has basically covered all of those costs. But I just wanted to just add in terms of the costs of the legal fees that Power and Associates, because Michael Power and his team has played quite an important role in terms of setting up the fund. And that, I have to say, has come from the International Fund for Public Interest Media. They have been very incredibly helpful in terms of helping us as AIP get really great legal support in terms of setting up the fund. So that has been a support in the lead up to the setting up of the fund. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Kate. I think that's very valuable because it means that the 20%, which essentially adds up to, I think, about 22.8 million rand, which is 20% of the 114 million rand, that is allocated for admin costs. And if the source for the legal costs of administering this fund is outside of that 114 million rand, it means there's more funds available for beneficiaries. So it relates to the second part of the question. I think part of it was answered by Carmen. So is there a breakdown showing how the total fund allocation is distributed in terms of admin costs as distinct from the quantum that is allocated to beneficiaries? In other words, a kind of a spreadsheet, and I'm sure it will obviously be a work in progress as well, because as funds are allocated to beneficiaries, that spreadsheet will be further populated. But is that information available to AIP members?
So, Chamu, I mean, I'm happy to jump in there. I mean, what will happen is that so exactly as Chamu said, it's up to 20% of the fund is basically spent on the admin of the fund. And yes, I mean, there will be annual reports on that, and information about that will absolutely be made available. I mean, I think one of the key things around this fund is transparency. It's also going to be very important for people to know, which projects got funded, and how much was funded, in terms of those particular projects. So, all of that. So not only the admin, and how much of the fund is spent on admin, which we already know up front, what those percentages are going to be, but also, the projects. There will be a list of the projects every year that have in fact been funded. So that is one of the key principles around this funding. And Chamu, I'd be very happy for you to add to that. Thank you.
Yeah, no,
Okay,
absolutely. So there will be that transparency that is put in place. In fact, even in our contractual agreement, we have indicated what is the breakdown as at the time of putting together the proposal. Of course, as things move along, we may find that shifts somewhat, but it will be something that will be presented and shared. Certainly we will be sharing that with AIP. And AIP can then make it available to members and other stakeholders.
Thank you, Chamu. Thank you, Sis Kate. I'm just being mindful of the time. I'm going to allow Johnson to ask his question now.
Sorry, sorry, Chair. There was one
Okay.
more point that I made in my chat. It is the recommendations that I wanted to make. So if I can quickly just go through that, AIP should apply as a collective for the bulk purchase of essential tools such as software and related licenses. And I'm here referring to examples like Adobe Suite, news photo libraries, chatbots, subscriptions to key social media accounts. This strategy will help reduce costs for acquiring generic tools that can support the majority of AIP members. I think these things are usually expensive in our transition to the digital space. And if AIP can apply as a collective, it will help reduce costs, and which means there's more money available in a pot for AIP members who apply individually.
Thank you, Mahmoud. Valuable input there. Johnson, you may go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. My name is Johnson. I'm from the Business Weekly, based in the Free State. I just have three short questions, and then the one has already been partly answered. Just for clarity, when we apply for the grant, will we also get a non-financial support in terms of if we lack the skills and so forth? Can we get that? And then the second one would be, just in case my application fails, and then now it returns to me, you tell me this is what is wrong. After fixing it, can I apply again? Or I just apply once and then I will apply, if I fail, I will apply the following year? Or can I apply again just the very same year? And then the third one, the last one would be, should I get the funding? Are you funding in a lump sum, or are you going to distribute the funds in just in tranches, so forth? Yes, those are my questions. Thank you.
Anita,
Thank
should I
you.
go ahead?
Let's go to, before you answer this, Kate, let's just do a number of them and then maybe just one more. Let's go to David's question. David in the chat box was asking, my question is directed to Michael, but unfortunately Michael is not here. Says Kate, maybe you can answer that one. On funding bands, which band will projects that are fully online and capacitated fall on? That was David's question. So you can just maybe summarize those two and then we take two more.
Hi, Kate.
Yes, hi, V.
Sorry about that. No, I just wanted to update Sisaneta that I also see on my side that Isaac has been replying to those questions. So thank you very much, Isaac, for that. But yeah, you can go on.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks so much to Isaac, because Isaac has put some very important points into the chat box, and please do have a look at those. I just want to say that, non-financial skills are something that are really critical, is really critical. And so we will be looking at that. It's going to be very much part of the funding policy document, that we look at, basically providing funds, which is the concrete funds, plus the non-financial skills, which is the kind of mentorship. About applying again, absolutely, you would be able to apply again. Again, that will be a part of the financial policy tranches. Those kinds of details would also be dealt with in the financial policy document. Colleagues, the overall principle here is that we want to make sure that it is as easy as possible to apply. We don't want to make it complicated. And so when we're putting the financial policy document together, that is the key underlying principles. And then in terms of the funding band and issues around online publications would be able to apply for all those different bands. Online publications are not being precluded in any of those bands. Thanks, colleagues.
Thank you so much, Sis Kate. And then we're going to allow iPhone. I don't know, because it's written iPhone, so it's going to be iPhone and then it's going to be TCN. iPhone, go ahead.
Hi, thank you. I think iPhone, it meant to say Paul Mambusa. I'm not sure if everyone can hear me.
Yes, we can.
I hope everyone.
We can hear you, sir.
Great. All right, thank you. My name is Paul from the Voice of Africa. I heard Mike mention the issue of the funding policy that is still going to be developed, to say it will be ready sometime next year. So my question is that the new application, are they going to start after the policy has been modified, or people can start applying now? And my second question is that do you only look into people who are members of AIP or anyone in general who is in the media space? Thank you.
Thank you. TCN? Okay, if TCN is not there, can we take Fanelo?
Hello, can you hear me, guys? All right, thank you so much for the great presentation by Chikululu. My only concern and question is about the issue of these committees that are going to be held. My question is that are these committees going to include maybe old members of the AIP, people like Tom? I don't know. This is just my suggestions so that we don't have a bunch of new people who don't understand our sector and the difficulties that we encounter on a daily basis. So I think it would be very much helpful if we have old members or people who are in the sector, people who understand our sector, even if they're not working permanently, but just as an observation, I don't know, on an observation capacity or whatsoever. But just to ensure that all these committees of the fund, they do have people who understand our sector, rather than we bring new people who don't even understand our sector that much. Thank you. I don't know if that is, yeah.
Thank you, Fanelo. TCN, are you there? Okay. Sis Kay, Samu, are you able to answer?
Definitely. I mean, Chamu, would you like to go ahead first and then I come in? I'm also happy to answer.
Yeah, certainly. So maybe let me start with the one about the committees. The committees are really there to help and guide. And so, the constitution of those committees, we kind of shared how they'll be made up. Of course, where people have got the relevant skills, the relevant experience, they don't have to necessarily be, employed by any particular organization. Of course, we've said that in the advisory committee, AIP will be represented there, and there will be members from the Press Council and other bodies that we've indicated, and 3 independent members. Again, the intention is to get people that will bring efficiency, people that bring skill, knowledge, and experience, and there's a process that will be followed to actually select the right people. I hope I'm being clear with regards to that. Kate, I don't know if you want to add on to that, and then also take on the one about the who applies. Is it only AIP members?
Yeah, let me go ahead. So thank you, Chamu. So I mean, yeah, exactly as you're saying. The issue is that in terms of the board, we want to get experience. We want to get financial experience, tech experience. But I mean, to your point, Fanelo, it's really, really critical that people on the board and also as part of the adjudication panel have a deep knowledge of community media. And I think that is we will definitely be looking for people with that deep, thoughtful, long experience. I then want to very briefly answer the question about, when can you apply and can you apply right now? And no, you need to wait for that funding policy to be put in place. But certainly you can assist us. We will have big consultation processes around that policy. But once that policy is in place, and the fund has then opened, and you will definitely be informed about it. At that point, you can apply. And then very briefly to talk about AIP members only. No, it's not AIP members only. It is members of the Press Council. So it goes beyond AIP members, but the absolute focus is ensuring that grassroots, small publishers, which are AIP publishers, will be the focus of the fund. Thanks.
Thank you, Suske. Thank you, Chamu. There's just one last question from Solly in the chat box. In the respect of those that are applying for the DNT fund. Okay, what happened now? That were not in the digital transformation, what criterion? Oh, I don't understand the question. What criteria will we need to qualify, as this will be the first time?
Aneta, I'm happy to answer that question, if I'm understanding it correctly. But I think it's a powerful point. It's about, well, what
Yes.
happens with our members that have no digital presence,
Yes.
that are people that are printing, that don't have a
Yes.
website,
Yes.
or maybe are kind of might have like a Facebook page or something like that.
Yes.
And it's to say that, colleagues, you absolutely can apply to the fund. It's about you putting in place a digital strategy where you start from exactly where you're at, which is printing, and start to think about how you want to put your content out there on social media and on websites. So we are absolutely not excluding people that don't have a digital presence yet. It is to help people, and that first band will look at people that need to get going. Thanks, Aneta.
Thank you so much, colleagues. For those who still have questions, you can post your questions in the chat box, because we are just being mindful of the time. We still have quite a lot that we have to go through. So our next item will be just highlighting the achievements of AIP for the past 3 years, since 2022, 2023, and 2024. And I welcome you, Sis Kate, our ED, to just start with 2022 and 2023, and then we will give over to our colleague Mafanzile to do 2024. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much, colleagues, and thank you, Aneta, for giving me this opportunity to talk very briefly about some of our achievements over the years. And I think we've come from a very difficult position, and I want to make that clear to everybody. When I took over, and when our board took over, and Bali Glomo, Dunisani, we had a number of our board members that are board members now, were there. We needed to kind of pick up. A number of our publishers had stopped printing. But we had this incredibly powerful team. And in 2021, the end of 2021 and 2022, one of the major things was around focusing on fundraising to stabilize the organization. And I'm very happy to say that we did manage to actually do that. I also want to say that we had some wonderful kind of engagements. So other than the fundraising, one of the big things was, various engagements, where we kind of put AIP out there, as a leader in the media field. And, I want to congratulate people like our board member, Tembi Majiba, in terms of starting, just as an example, the inaugural Town Meets Gown seminar series, and she was there, which was really important. I think also what was important about 2022 was also just that we did get support from the FP&M CETA and Rhodes University around doing some really interesting digital media trainings to kind of get our members to kind of move from print into a kind of multi-platform environment. And then also just to say that one of the key things that happened in 2022 was this understanding of the fact that we needed to have a sustainability committee put in place. And a number of people I can see on the line are members of a sustainability committee. And it's been, I think, a really amazing journey. We started that, we had this first meeting at the SABC in Cape Town. One of our colleagues in SANEF and the Press Council, Isaac Minna, played an important role there. And so that sustainability committee, I think, kind of put us on this track, which is actually where we've come to in terms of the fund, of making sure that we have funding, and we have really been thoughtful around what to do about, making sure that our publishers don't struggle to the same extent that they have been, and that they survive and in fact thrive. So then I want to move very quickly onto 2023. And I just want to highlight some of the most important things that happened in 2023. And one of the things which I think has been very important has been a visit that we took 10 of our publishers on to the US. we took people to Ohio University. There was a particular Prof Bill Reader, who then put us in touch with a whole lot of rural publishers and small town publishers in Ohio. It was wonderful. Our publishers were able to actually spend time with those publishers and then also get the kind of whole, academic and kind of practical sort of training as well from the university. So I think that was something that we were very proud of. And I think that, again, the Sustainability Committee was really boosted by the experiences from those publishers. So, colleagues, I'm aware of time issues, and therefore I want to hand over to our board member from Mpumalanga, Mfanzile, to then take us through some of the achievements that we have from 2024. And just to say that, colleagues, we will be putting this very detailed report of all things that we have managed to achieve over these last few years on our website so that people can go through it in a lot more detail. Thank you.
Thank you, Sis Kate. Mfanzile?
Greetings, everyone. Am I audible?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Mine is just to wrap up what the ED has just presented. It's been a journey of growing, and as you have been following what the ED has been presenting, you can see that as an organization we are growing. So I will just wrap up what she has just presented, looking at on what we have achieved in 2024. So first, it has been strengthening member engagement and capacity building. So what we have done as an organization, we made sure that we visit provinces. So 8 provinces were visited in 2024. And we've also ensured that our members are capacitated in an opportunity where they receive training via the FP and MCTA, and the trainings were conducted by Frey College. So our members receive training in digital media skills and business leaderships in that our members are equipped in running up. We're also part of the training in terms of equipping our members. So that's part of the things we have done in terms of strengthening the capacity and growing our members. And in terms of the sustainability committee, advancing it, we normally have fortnightly meetings where we engage with different stakeholders, looking at the things which will benefit our members and also share knowledge. So that has been very, very much helpful in terms of growing the organization and making sure that our members understand what's happening in the industry, because the Sustainability Committee, as Kate has mentioned, is not only formed by our members, but members from different spaces, leaders in different sectors within the media space. So it has been very, very beneficial to our members. Moving to campaigns we did, we established or launched the Media Emergency Fund, which brought awareness of the challenges our media or our members are facing. Not only our members, but media is in general is facing. So it was a successful awareness. We received media coverage in different spaces. It was published in most spaces or platforms by our members and even outside our members. So it was a very successful campaign. So it got traction for AIP and brought that awareness that we are in the space and advocating for members or advocating for the industry, the challenges we are facing as the media industry. And then in 2024, another milestone which was groundbreaking is the Google Fund. I cannot go into detail, it has been explained, so that's part of the achievement. It started the previous year, but it came into fruition this year. And next year, March, the plan is that by March, we'll be starting to accept proposals, making sure that members and even other outside AIPs start to benefit in the space of community media. And then we have also launched an awareness via the Consumer Goods Council. We have been working with the Consumer Goods Council in terms of making or bringing awareness of the challenges facing consumers, and we have started working with the Consumer Goods Council with members in Gauteng. So that has been part of the successes in 2024. Members in Gauteng have benefited in this campaign, and we're looking to grow it outside Gauteng. So Gauteng was just a pilot. And then another achievement or something we look at as an achievement or things we have done in 2024 is the advocacy and collaboration. So as AIP, we have grown to a level that now people recognize the organization, and we are in the spaces, different spaces where most other media entities or organizations take part. So those are the things we took part. Our members were part of the Media Freedom Festival, and they were not just part, but they were panelists in that festival. And then even on the SINEF Indigenous Language Conference were there. And I believe most of you, even outside our members, understand or know that as AIP members, we advocate for the use of indigenous language. So we are being recognized in that space that we are the voice for indigenous languages. So SANEF invited us, we were part of the panelists. And then we had a campaign celebrating the heritage. So that one was also a successful campaign where our members took part, and then a publication was developed and released for the Heritage Month. And moving along, I'm looking at the time, and then I just highlighted that we also had representation in different spaces, like the UNESCO World Press Freedom. Our ED, Dr. Kate, took a trip to Chile where she was representing the organization in May. So that's part of the international recognition for AIP. And then Africa Media Perspective Conference, which was held in Stellenbosch in June, were there and part of that, being panelists. And then last one where we took an active participation were there, and it was the town meets down a seminar in Fort Hare looking at indigenous languages. One of our board members, Tuli, was also there. And then in closing leadership contribution, our members are now represented in different organizations like the AR, the Audit Bureau of Circulation, which is the monitoring the grassroots numbers. And then Advertising Referral Board, we are also there. We have members representation. On the Press Council, we have our board member who represent the organization there. SOS, Coalition, and then on SANEF, we also have our members. And then on the training and education, we have a member there. And then on the Community Media Committee, we also a member there. And then Hope is a verb, which is another organization which advocates for the media and local community media. So just in summary, nice organization, and we have a representation, meaning that we now have a voice in different spaces. I think I'll stop there. There's a conclusion. I'll invite Dr. Kate just to wrap things up, looking at the way forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mfanzile. Thank you, Sis Kate, for that summary of what we have achieved in the past 3 years. I'm just going to open up for 2 questions. Any other questions can be posted in the chat box and will be addressed accordingly. Thank you so much. Colleagues, members, any questions based on what you heard that has been achieved over the past 3 years? Thank you. Okay. V, do we have anything in the chat box? I don't see any hands raised.
There is, but I don't think it's related to what was just presented right now, because it's from Zoli Samuel. Greetings, Chair and colleagues. Can you please consider all publishers in this funding who stayed in the sector, even on difficult situation? I'm not saying others must be sidelined, no, but all publishers deserve a lot.
Okay, thank you so much, V. Thank you, Zoliso. Okay, then, colleagues, we're going to move over to the adoption of our audited financial statements, and everyone has been given the opportunity to go through the financials. And if you had any questions, we ask that you ask questions. We haven't received any questions, so we will then take it that everyone is happy with what has been presented. And I'm going to just allow Sis Kate to just give us an overview of the financials, and then we can adopt it. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much, Sisanetta. So, yes, so, I mean, we're very proud of the fact that we got an unqualified audit, and that we've managed to get a number of new donors on side. So
Kate,
originally, yes.
sorry to interrupt. We're seeing Zoom on your sharing screen.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry
I
about
think
that.
it's also, I'm not sure, Z Kumalo's screen. Who's Z Kumalo? Can you? Oh, Harry.
I'm not
Oh,
actually
Ben.
sharing anything.
No
Yes,
worries.
no.
Kate, we're
It
back
was
to
it was
normal.
it.
Valenta's
They're back.
correct. Someone else was sharing.
It was probably done in error.
Apologies.
All right, let me continue. But yes, thanks, Ben. Yeah, so just to say that we're very proud of the fact that we've managed to get a number of new donors on board. I think originally, as with a number of NGOs in the sector and nonprofits, you know, we all got Open Society Foundation funding, but that became very difficult because Open Society Foundation moved out of South Africa and then wasn't actually putting core funding in place. So the only thing that I want to say is that I want to really thank a number of our donors that have come and supported us. So the first one is the FPNM CETA, and as Mfanzile was saying, I mean, we managed to get a certain amount of funding in order to do some very critical trainings, and so that has been amazing. The US Embassy grant, which allowed us, our publishers, to actually go to the US, was also extremely helpful. And then, of course, the International Fund for Public Interest Media, assisting us with all these negotiations around the setting up of this Digital News Transformation Fund. Again, really helpful. I want to also just mention the media companies, and just to say that, you know, we've been very lucky as AIP to have support from them. And I want to, you know, make a big shout out also to Media 24 that gives us free office space, and has also given us, you know, small amounts of funding as well, but the free office space, and you know, access to all those telecommunication services is really amazing. And also Arena, you know, has played an important role in terms of helping, you know, pay some core costs and some salaries as well. And when we had a fundraiser, Caxton was very helpful in terms of buying a table for that fundraiser, which we had with Quote This Woman Plus. But I want to leave it there, colleagues. The one only error that we picked up in the report was, in fact, the spelling of Mfanzile Glakude's name, which we are going to fix as soon as possible, and then just reissue the audited financials. But thank you. And then, Sister Netta, when you're ready, I'm happy to talk about the auditors, and so that we can move to appointing the auditors. Thank you.
Yes, Ms. Kate, I'm ready. We can go ahead.
So in terms of the auditors, we've had auditors in place for the last 2 years that have done an excellent job in terms of our audit. And so we would like to reappoint them. The person is Morne Jonker and from Rebus. And they've got extensive experience in the NGO sector. And I have to say, and V. Valent, our administrator, will vouch for this. The auditor has definitely kept us on our toes and making sure that absolutely every single invoice that we have, we can account for. Yeah, I think we are happy from our side in terms of being as precise as we possibly can. So thank you, colleagues. Thank you, Sister Netta.
Thank you, Sis Kate. We are going to call on Johannes. It is our deputy chair. He's just going to give us an overview of the MOI and also when our next general meeting is going to be in 2025, where we're going to adopt the MOI. So, Johannes.
Thank you very much, colleagues. Thank you, Chair, for this opportunity to present these few items that I have here. Yes, I'm gonna talk about the Memorandum of Incorporation, the way forward on adoption of the MOI and on our amendment. The whole issue is that maybe most they have been expecting us that or expecting that the MOI will be tabled here, but I just want to put on the table why that MOI is not being adopted at this AGM. There are key amendments still under debate. Point number one, we recognize that some of the proposed amendments require further discussions in this MOI. And also, colleagues, it is very essential to ensure that all members are fully informed and on board with every clause in the MOI. That's the reason, point number one, the reason why the Memorandum of Incorporation is not going to be adopted at this AGM. And the other point is that the upcoming consultations, which we are busy with to facilitate this, we are planning a series of meetings early 2025 to deliberate on these matters collectively. So that is the third point that we are going to facilitate, and we are planning a series of meetings early in next year, 2025. And then the other point is that our alignment with public benefit organization, which is the PBO status, it is another critical reason for the delay in the need to align the MOI with our status as a public benefit organization. This is very important, colleagues. We need to align with the public organization, which is the PBI status. The other point is that this alignment that we are talking about, or which we are referring to, ensures compliance and regulatory requirements and reflects our commitment to serving the public good effectively. So this is very, very important, colleagues. We should put this in mind that this alignment ensures compliance, which is very more important. What is our next step? I mean, the next step that we are heading to is to have a special annual general meeting. That special annual general meeting It is going to compose of finalizing the MOI. We will hold a special annual general meeting early in 2025. Can I continue, colleagues?
Please continue, Brother.
Thank you.
Muted the person.
Thank you very much. Yeah, as I was saying that, what is our next step in terms of our special general meeting? It's to finalize, point number one is to finalize the MOI on our next annual general meeting, and which will be held early next year in 2025. The dates, they will communicate in time regarding the dates. Either it will be January, February, or March, or so forth. Then the date will definitely be shared in that regard. And the other thing, this will allow us to adopt the revised MOI with full consensus and ensure it aligns with the PBO objectives, which is the public benefit organization. Yeah, that is the other point that we'll be looking into, that this will allow the MOI to be adopted, to adopt the revised MOI with full consensus and ensures that it aligns with the PBO objectives. Yeah, those are the points that I wanted to share with you colleagues in regard to why the MOI it is not adopted in this AGM. I hope all of us colleagues we understood, and then if there's any question in regard to this information shared, please don't hesitate to do so. And then in closing, I would like to thank all our members for their patience in this regard, their understanding, and active participation in shaping the way forward for our organization. Thank you very much, colleagues. Thank you.
Thank you, Brajo. Thank you, colleagues.
Aneta,
yes, babe.
Apologies. I know that Slindile had a question that we moved on from just at the end of the Q&A. I wonder if maybe Slindile wanted to come through.
Okay. Let's allow Slindile. Slee, are you still there?
Thanks, Ben. Thanks, Annette. I just wanted to ask Chamu or Michael, anyone who can assist with timelines. I know that the applications are going to open around March, but the whole process then, after assessing due diligence and the works, how long can members expect that would take? I think that it helps for people to have a sense.
Thank you, Slee. I see Mahmoud's hand is also up, but colleagues, that will be then the last question for the day. Mahmoud, you may go ahead.
Thank you, Anita. Regarding the issue of the MOI and the application for the public benefit organization status. So this is an application that is made to SARS, and I think it's very important that the MOI has to reflect the objectives of a public benefit organization that will be approved by SARS for it to become a registered PBO. That's an important process, and I think some legal input is required there. We did it as a newspaper, and we applied successfully. So that's one important step. The next step is to apply for approval to issue Section 18A certificates, or say Section 18A receipts, which I think is an important acquisition for AIP, because anyone who supports a public benefit organization and then is incentivized by getting a rebate from SARS, that Section 18A benefit is actually important to apply for as well. Again, we applied successfully for our Section 18A because we demonstrated to SARS that we serve public interest journalism and we do investigative journalism and so forth. So all of that, I think, are important criteria that must be reflected in your MOI. And that's why I would recommend all members to actually have a look at this document to ensure that we that it accurately reflects these criteria and that we are compliant with our application with SARS.
Thank you so much, Mahmoud. Mrs. Kate, do you want to respond to Slee's question?
Yes. Thank you, Slee, for that question, because I think it's really important. So you're absolutely correct that what we will be doing is we will be opening the fund, or the plan is to open the fund, and if everything's in place, that's certainly we are pushing to open in March, and then we have 3 years of funding. We still need to look again at exactly how this is going to work, but there probably would be like 2 funding windows open a year. Then we're also thinking that we might allow for people to put in applications outside those funding windows. We need to look at those details, but basically, as we keep on saying, we want to make it as easy as possible for people. So we don't want to make it too complicated in terms of you have to apply at a particular time, but those details will be worked out. But overall, I think it's really key to say that the funding that Google has set aside is for a 3-year period. And then I want to move quickly on to the PBO one, but I also would like Brajo to answer that one as well. But I just wanted to say from the side of the office, the PBO status is a very critical one, and we have got significant legal support on that one. In fact, Michael Power, who gave our presentation at the beginning of this meeting, is working with us on that one, and we will make sure that when we give you the next draft of the MOI, it is fully aligned with the PBO status, and that's very important. Thanks, colleagues. Thanks, Suneta.
Thank you so much, Ms. Kay. Thank you, colleagues. I'm not going to allow for any questions. Please do post them in the chat box. I just want to take this opportunity to thank all of you who have attended today, and I'm going to welcome Sis Tembi just to do a vote of thanks. Yes, and then we will close the meeting. Thank you very much, colleagues. Sis Tembi? Sis Tembi, are you there? Ben, Valent, do you see Tembi on the line?
Is this Tembi Moyo?
No, Tembi Mbija.
I don't see her.
I'm also not seeing.
Okay, colleagues. Let me then step in for my colleague, and on behalf of the AIP, just say as we close this AGM, I just want to extend a heartfelt thanks to each one of you for your valuable contributions, your active participation, and your unwavering commitment to the Association of Independent Publishers. Today's discussions and decisions underscore the power of collaboration and the critical role we play in shaping a media landscape that reflects the diverse voices of our nation. Let us take the insights and the resolutions from this meeting as guidelines for the year ahead.
Hi, colleagues.
While challenges remain, are you there, Sis Tembi?
Yes, my dear, I'm here. Okay. I don't know what happened.
Thank you. You may go ahead. You may go ahead. I was just thanking our members on behalf of AIP, but if you are there, go ahead, please.
Okay, am I audible? Can you hear me?
You are audible. Go ahead, Sis Tembi.
Oh, thank you so very much. Publishers, esteemed guests, and our honorable speakers, your contributions are indeed invaluable. In fact, I must say that your presence here today has made our AGM a memorable experience and a special event. There is no doubt that each and every one of us in this AGM has taken something from your presentations because the material you have covered was as engaging as it was thoughtful. We are grateful you have shared your expertise, and I'm definitely sure after this AGM, we will be showered with positive feedback from colleagues and attendees alike. I am now even more convinced that our Google funds are in the right hands of a reputable financial company. Having said that, I would like to take this opportunity and echo the words of our chairperson, Mrs. Aneta Maklaba, and our executive director, Dr. Kate Skinner, during the launch, and extend a word of gratitude to Google for supporting our small and developing print media companies. The timing of this great digital initiative is more than perfect because the injection of these funds came at the right time when we need it the most. To Dr. Kate Skinner, our executive director, and Violet, you are an amazing team, which is driving this association of independent newspapers to the right direction. Yes, indeed, you are at the helm of the changing the narrative and the right hand of the board of directors of the AIP. Well done and keep up the good work. Amate, ngawechala colleagues. By those few words, I thank you.
Thank you so much, Sis Tembi. Thank you to all the colleagues. Happy festive season. Happy Christmas in advance. Happy New Year in advance.
Thank
and see you in our next board meeting in 2025. Thank you so much, colleagues.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Aneta. Thanks so much. Thanks,
you.
colleagues. Thanks.
Bye. Thank you, colleagues.
Thank
Bye.
you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you.
Merry
Thank
Christmas.
you.
Guys.
Thank you, everyone. Good day.
Bye.
Bye.
Take care. Go well.
Okay, bye.
Amen. Thank you.
Team, I'm going to end the meeting.
Go ahead.
Yes, you can. Thank you very much,
Go
Ben.
ahead. Thank you. Thanks so
Thank
much,
you,
Ben.
everybody. Bye.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.